Before we continue, any questions that do you have right now from what we just went through a few minutes ago? Any question?
Yes. The session,
Yes.
is it recorded?
Yes, that's the second person that asked for it. It is recorded.
And how can we have the recording section after that?
I'm gonna try to make that available to you guys at the end of the session. Okay, that's not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other question? Okay. Let's go ahead and move on. So we described the two first Agile principle: welcome change. We welcome change. We deliver value faster. We deliver working software frequently. So that has to do with the previous one, where we want to deliver value early in the process. We don't want to wait till the end and deliver piece of the software. So if you have the software available only at the end, then likely you won't be able to do all the testing that you want, get the look and feel of the software. So you want to be able to have a little functionality delivered to you, see if you like it, be able to test it, be able to make change at any time from what you have, and build on top of what was changed earlier. Okay, so we deliver working software frequently. And the fourth one is we work together daily. So when I'm talking about this one, you're going to be potentially thinking about the daily stand-up, because Agile encourages a lot of human interaction, physical interaction. Okay, so you want to be able again to talk to people, to meet with them, because it does spark creativity. It does make teams collaboration stronger or better. Okay, and then you have the next set of principle. We build projects around motivated individuals. Same thing. When you have people working, question, when you have people working together, there's a feeling of belonging to the team, of community that is born in between the team members. So when they're able to collaborate, to talk each other, to exchange, they are very motivated of building the project and going into the same direction. So we give the environment to those people, and we support them, and we trust them that they can do the work together. And once they're confident that they can do the work as a team together, they usually produce very good results. Face-to-face conversations is also encouraged. Matter of fact, that's one important part of the Agile approach. You have the daily stand-ups where people actually sitting in the same room, or at least right now, since everyone with the COVID is working from home, is trying to work, adapt and work through video calls. That's why I required initially the first few people who joined the call to be on camera, so we can put a face on the names and we can relate. Okay, that's Agile. Working software is the key. We don't want to waste the time on documentation, on plan, on theoretical stuff. We want things that work, that produce value, right? And that's going to help the customer fulfill his need or her needs, or solve their problems. All right. Then we have attention to technical excellence. So we're testing a lot, and we allow customers or anyone in the team to make changes and suggestion, and that advances the way we design application. And if you allow people to do it, it makes the team really flexible in the way they think, and in the way they produce solutions as well. We're doing sustainable development. So agile process also promotes the sustainable development. And the sponsored project team members, developer use should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. So that means that we want to be able to start working and get to a cadence where the team is feeling comfortable, and anybody around the team also who's not part of the team, like the stakeholders, are also feeling comfortable that the work that is produced is not rushed, is into a sustainable cadence. We're not delivering too much upfront. We're not delivering too little upfront. We want to be able to have a standard pace that we use as we deliver work, because that helps with the predictability on any project. And we're going to talk about that when we come to the velocity, right? What we call velocity in Scrum. But we want to have a good predictability and have a work that is done at a standard and average pace. Okay. We want simplicity. Okay. That is maximizing the amount of work that is done and not essential. So basically, we want to be able to first, when we get a project, to develop what is the simplest way of developing the solution. We don't want to do things too complex initially, and then we can build on top of that. So if you have a problem that is very complex, that's the beauty of Agile. That's why complex, and as we're going to see also in a couple of slides, complex products are very good with Agile, right? Because when you have a complex product, you can only start with a small piece, what you already know, right? We're going to see that also when we talk about prioritization and breaking up features into epics and stories and tasks. So you want to be able to take a complex product, because when it's complex, the human tendency is to be discouraged, to get confused, right? So you want to take a complex project and make it simple, meaning you want to take a small piece of the project, start working on it based on what you know, deliver it, test it, and learn from it in order to move on to the next piece. And that's how you build products increment, as we're going to see also later on. You build increment on top of each others and you integrate them together, so that at any time, every work that you're doing is simple enough to be done right and to be done very well, and so that you can satisfy the customer as well. We favor self-organizing teams. Okay, we want to have teams that are working independently. We don't want to have micromanagement. Okay, we want to trust, we said that before, we want to trust the team to do what they do best and to organize themselves so that they can produce value to the best of their knowledge. Because studies have shown that the more management there is in a company, people are getting frustrated and are not really motivated to produce, to do the work and do it right, to just do it because they're told to do it. They don't do it with their passions, they don't put their heart into it. But Agile is actually letting teams, or favoring teams being self-organized. Okay. And one important aspect of being self-organized is having their own rules, being able to create their own rules. When they get together, they need to discuss when they want to schedule their meetings, when they want to meet, what are the rules that they have, what is the definitions of done that they agreed on. One funny example, some companies are doing that. I've been having companies doing that, and they'll be charging me money for that. If you get late, some teams in Scrum, and I'm getting ahead of myself right now, but some teams are doing that. They're fixing rules for the stand-up meetings. And again, if you don't know what is a stand-up meeting, we're going to get to it in a second. So they're fixing rules for people, to force people to be punctual, right? You want to have anybody that needs to attend the team to be there on time. So we spend the least time possible on meeting and talking without being productive. So you only want to meet when it's necessary and do what needs to be done during the meeting. In other words, you want to schedule a meeting and make sure that you get the best out of the meeting in the least amount of time. Okay, so you let people, the teams being self-organized. And the example I was going to take is some people are fixing fees for people showing it at the meeting. They're charging you $1. They can say they decide that everybody on the team, before we start on this new project, we got the Scrum team together, and anybody who's going to show up late is going to pay $1 every day. So, and then they collect that, when it's a certain amount, they take people to lunch or something like that. But that's letting the teams work at their pace and making sure that they organize themselves the way they want to produce the best work possible. And then we reflect and we adjust. That's why Agile is an adaptive process, right? Because we work on iteration and is also based on empiricism. So we do decide based on experience. If we don't know something, then we take the least amount of risk, we work on it, we get to know it. As we know it, we make changes, we reflect, we adjust, and we move on to the next piece of work. We don't do everything at the same time. So if you have a big project, you're not taking the whole project at the same time, building all the parts without necessarily knowing everything that's going on, and then at the end realizing that you made some mistakes in some of the pieces of the software, right? That's wrong. In Agile, you want to make sure that you do little pieces, you reflect on that, you test it, you see and you decide on the issues that you had, and then you do better the next time on the different other pieces of functionalities or features that you're going to be developing in the future. Okay, that's reflecting on and adjusting Agile. I'm going to stop here and I'm going to take questions, if questions there are. All right. Before we move on, so let me see. Okay. So before we move on, I just wanted to.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Yes, I have a question, but is from the previous part.
Sure.
We're talking about the waterfall
Yeah.
model.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are the advantage of that model and the disadvantage?
Of what model?
Waterfall model.
Compared to what? To Agile?
Yes.
There's basically no advantage to Waterfall compared to Agile. Basically none. Because the fundamental thing that you need to understand is the whole time, the early 80s and even before, when people started to realizing that they can do things better, right? They were taking a lot of risks into developing applications. And in the 2000s, which was the dot-com boom and everything, the internet and all those things were exploding. A lot of tools and software and web application were getting developed, right? But there was a lot of competition going on into the market in the industry. And people are always, human beings are like that. People are always being to optimize and adapt to whatever is happening in the market. Okay, so the SDLC process that runs on a waterfall is a process that was built normally not even for good software development, because you can do Agile even in manufacturing, in engineering, and whatnot. But it was built initially because we didn't have any better, for lack of a better solution. And people thought that the best way of delivering an application is just get requirements, you know, have that put together, analyze, estimate it, get a budget on, sign contract, design, develop, test, and release. But I realized that there are better ways of doing, there can be better ways of doing things, especially in the software. Remember, this Agile was born in the software industry for a reason, because it's an ever changing environment. Okay. So to answer your question, there's really no advantage of using waterfall compared to Scrum. Now, you're going to ask me, if there is none, why are companies not moving to it? Well, it's just like any changes. Human beings by nature are resistant to change, right? If you have
Yeah.
somebody who's been in a company for 25 years or 30 years, that's been doing maybe C development for the past 30 years in a certain way, right? And you bring up all of a sudden a new process that he hasn't been coached yet for, he's going to be resistant automatically. If you tell him that you got to do a stand-up meeting every day, when he used to sit down at his desk, just do his work, and when he's done his leaving, he's going to be resistant, right? If you
Yeah.
tell him that he has to have a demo at the end of the sprint, every 2 weeks he has to do a demo, he's going to be resistant. But when you understand, and that's the reason why we do have teams, or we let teams being self-organized, so that they don't feel a pressure that when they're doing the demo is actually because a manager is asking them to have a demo. Yet we want them to feel empowered to show what they can do, right? And to show that they can deliver good products and that they're responsible in the way they organize their work.
Right.
So the only difficulty of people implementing that is really being open-minded, and accept that you can work in such an environment. And once you realize it, and it takes a lot of coaching, then you realize the benefits of Scrum or Agile in general. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Any other question? Okay. All right. So now let me ask questions. Let me see. Let me just pick one person randomly. Okay. Let me see. And let me see. Steve, what's the difference between something complex and something complicated?
Sorry, I just came, so I'm kind of lost now.
All right. Let's move on. That's okay, let's see. Okay, let me see. I see Gael. Gael, what's the difference between something complex and something complicated? Is Gael on? Gael? All right. Let's see. Carlos. 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 Are you on? Okay. And I see a lot of people actually have their camera off. And if we want to work in an agile world, you need to be focused on what we're doing and turn your camera on so we can also put a face on your name. You don't need to hide yourself. Okay, this is helping everybody to be connected at least. So if you can, yeah.
Can I try with the question? My name is Pierre, by the way.
All right, Pierre. 1 second. So I was saying, if you can please turn your camera on, that's great. Do that as much as
yeah,
you
I think
can.
my camera is on.
Yeah, I think I see you. I was just looking at the other folks.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Pierre.
Yeah. So if I have to guess, something complex is something that has a lot of steps in the way before getting to the end results. On the other hand, something complicated is just something that is hard to do. That is achievable, but much harder to do.
Okay. Something complex is something that is achievable but hard to do.
No, complicated. Complicated is hard but achievable, whereas complex is something that requires a lot of steps to get to the end result.
Yeah, I think that's close to the answer. That's close to the answer. So, and you have the answer actually in front of you right now. So something that is complex is something that has more unknown than what is known, right? In the opposite, something complicated is something that has more that is known versus what is not known. That's the basic difference. Okay. And that's actually where Agile is striving, because you might be, for those taking the exam, you might be seeing questions like that. right, is somewhat semantic, but those are valid questions. And we're using Agile in complex environments. So if you're reading or you're listening to someone saying that Agile is fitting for most projects that are complex, that means that for most projects where we have more unknown than known. Okay. And in this graph, you see the spectrum of complexity, process complexity, where you have the requirements in here, and then you have the technology. And this is where Agile is fitting. Where you have anarchy, those are products that are chaotic. Agile is not really going to solve those problems. You need to get a little more organized, get a little more information, get to this spectrum before being able to successfully apply the Agile methodology. Okay. All right, let's move on. So before I was talking about the different folks, 21 folks who met in Utah in 2001. And they were having, all of them were having different ways of implementing Agile, right? But I didn't know that they were doing the same thing until they realized it and decided that they were going to get together and put together the Agile manifesto and have the 12 principles written, right? So those methods, I mentioned that before, some of them were the Scrum from Ken and Jeff, XP, that's extreme programming, Agile, what we call today Agile PM, SAFE, that's scaled Agile, the scaled Agile framework. We're going to see that at the end of the class. And you see that this whole spectrum has in common the Agile mindset, the Agile values, which are part of the manifesto, okay? And then you have the 12 Agile principle that we spoke about, and all those different methodologies that are under Agile are following all those different principle and values, sharing those together. Okay, and those are the other ones under Agile. You do have the ones that are referred to as the lightweight approaches, of which Scrum, and you have the ones more complicated, like the Scale Agile Framework SAFE, that we're going to be seeing, the Scrum of Scrum, the large scale Scrum. Okay. So before I move on though, I wanted to mention that information that are going to be important for you to pass the exam or to take the certification successfully. I'm going to mention that every time we're moving on, because there are questions that you might not see or understand up front that we're going to say when you read the guide. So if you see the guide, you read the guide, you're going to have an understanding of exactly what every specific terminology means, and the way they're trying to trick you in the questions, changing names, changing words to confuse you. So I'm going to speak that out whenever we come across it, and I show the different slides. Okay. So now we spoke about Agile, right? Now you're wondering, how did we get to Scrum, and what is Scrum? Well, Scrum is not even a methodology that was born by itself. It's actually getting its name from rugby. And you see that in the middle, you have the referee, and on the two sides, you have teams. So the teams are actually at the heart of Scrum or Agile as well, right? And in rugby, the Scrum is a method of restarting a play, that involves players packing closely together with their heads down, attempting to gain possession of the ball. So this is rugby, a little bit close to American football, but this is where the Scrum is getting its name. Okay, and the teams are at the center of Scrum. And the Scrum methodology was founded by Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland in the late 90s. I think it was 1993. They came up with it. And right now, if you're taking the certification, you're going to realize, if you don't know it, Ken Schwaber is the one who created the Scrum.org organization. He left the Scrum Alliance that he created. He was one of the partners that created that with Jet Sutherland, right? So he created his the Scrum.org. This is the PSM exam, or Professional Scrum Master 1 exam that we gonna be covering here is actually from the Scrum.org. And there's a CSM, right? Some other people don't know the difference between the two. The CSM is a Certified Scrum Master. This is a technically it's not an exam, it's a training that you take, and you need to have someone who's already certified Scrum Master, right? You pay, I think, 1,500, and the person is taking you through a course, and at the end you're taking like a quick test, something easy, and then you can pass and get the CSM certification. Whereas with the PSM from the Scrum.org Alliance is only $150, and you're taking a thorough and comprehensive exam, 80 questions, 1 hour and a half, and you need to pass it. Okay, so you can sit by yourself, study, or take classes online, and take some exams that you have online. Get ready, and then go take the test. Pay the $150. You schedule it. You take the test. You pass it. You get the PSM, and you don't need to renew it. So it's a lifetime certification. So that's the difference. Okay. So Scrum is an agile process that we use to manage, like I said before, complex software. Said it before, complex software and product development using iterative incremental practices. So that's what we call sprints, and we do have product increment. We're going to talk about that a little further down the road. And we do have self-organizing cross-functional teams. We said it, that's one of the 12 agile principle, right? We spoke about a few seconds ago. We need to have self-organizing cross-functional teams. Now, cross-functional means that any of the team member is capable of doing something that's going to cover for what is needed in terms of skills and knowledge to perform the work or to produce the product increment. An example of cross-functional team might be you have in your team back-end developers, front-end developers, DevOps engineers, database administrators, etc., etc. So it takes a lot of skills to build a dev team under a Scrum team. That's why we're saying that those teams need to be cross-functional. It means that they need to be able to provide and perform their work without external help. They need to have all the skills necessary to accomplish and produce the product increment every sprint without having to rely on anybody else out of the organization or out of the team. That's what it means to be cross-functional. Okay. And we work in iterations. I said it before, we allow business flexibility to change requirements. That's not a problem because we do we deliver piece of the product little by little, and we refer to those pieces as increment every sprint. And we give the development teams their certainty within the iteration. So that means that it gives the teams within the team every time they're providing an increment to have feedback from the stakeholder, from the product owners, and from any customer that might have an interest into the product. It allows them to get the feedback up front before they move on to the next iteration. So they have feedback on time, and it gives them certainty on what they're doing. So they know the direction where they're going is the good direction because they're receiving feedback constantly. Okay, questions? Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
From what I've listened so far, is being a Scrum Master, is it like being in a management position?
No, being a Scrum Master is not a management position. A Scrum Master, by the definition, is a servant leader. Okay, that means that he's helping the team, and we're gonna get to it when we talk about the core roles of Scrum. I'm gonna give you more detailed information, but just to answer your question quick, a Scrum Master is a servant leader. So it's someone, he's not the manager of the team. He's someone who's there to help the team work at their maximum and optimum capacity. And he or she removes impediment. Okay, impediment is anything that blocks the team from moving forward into developing the product increment. So that's the role of the Scrum Master. So as a Scrum Master, you need to help, not only help them figuring out solutions or getting external material that they need or help, anything that might block them or hinder them from providing you the product increment every sprint, you're able to help them figure out the solution without having to develop a code. So you might know, for example, who can solve the problem. You might know what SMEs really, really knows the product more. If you need help, they might help you out. If you need maybe doing some testing, integration testing with other teams on which you have dependencies and the communication is not correct, you rely on your Scrum Master to help you have a fluid communication and test all those things on time. Okay, that's the role of a Scrum Master. And in addition to that, one important thing is, you want to become a Scrum Master, you need to master Scrum and you need to be able to coach the team. Somebody asked the question before, what is the advantage of the Waterfall SDLC versus Scrum?
That was me.
Yeah, and I said that there's none, but you need to be able to coach people to accept and adapt Scrum within the organization. Okay, so I think we are done for today. Any question before we go? Yeah.
Yes, I have a question. What are the requirements for all those exams?
Yeah, hold that. I'm gonna give you the answer tomorrow. Okay, hold that question. Oh, I'm gonna save the question for tomorrow. All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks everyone. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Make
I
sure
have
you
a
get me
quick
on time.
question. Hello?